What's going on? It's your boy Mental Agility. Mic check, mic check. Trying to see if this thing is working. Give me a second. All right, we back. What's going on, everybody? Sorry about that. It's technical difficulties. Hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can get the playback going. Give me a second. All right, there we go. Sorry about that, everybody. So, hey, welcome to the show, man. My name is Mental Agility, like the name in the description. So we here just asking a simple question, you know what I'm saying? Is Austin Holleman wrong? Okay. So there's a lot of talk that's going on out here in these streets. And there's a lot of naysayers and there's a lot of people that support Austin, clearly. So, I got a couple of friends that I talked to about the whole passport program. I have friends that don't agree with it. Me personally, I consider myself a passport bro. I'm getting ready to take my second trip to Africa at the end of the year. I've been a couple other places. I've been to Mexico. I've been to London. I've been to Kuwait. Uh, I've served some time overseas. So going overseas, seeing different cultures and the way people operate outside of the United States, that's something that's not unfamiliar, or something that's very familiar. So I think what's going on is a lot of people on the outside looking in don't really understand what's going on in this space. So me personally, I'm kind of iffy about what Austin's doing, if he's doing the right thing or if he's doing the wrong thing. Personally, I think it's more or less whatever his preference is. He's a young man, and it's like young guys are gonna make mistakes. It's real important in life to have your mentors. I always say there's three type of ways you can learn. You can learn from your parents, you can learn from other people's mistakes, or you can learn from life. And life is the worst teacher. Okay. You want to make sure that you can get all the information, all the tangible knowledge that you can gather before you move forward in life. And that's in everything that you do, whether it's you trying to figure out your career plans, if you're trying to date somebody, if you're trying to purchase a home, a vehicle, and so on and so forth. Major decisions, you should seek counsel. You know, a lot of gentlemen out there, they criticize and criticize and criticize, but you got to understand that he's a young man and he took a leap of faith, leaving his country, leaving his comfort zone. So sure, he's going to make some mistakes, but at the end of the day, it's his life and he's living it the best way he knows how. So in my opinion, do I feel like he could do different things? He can do certain things differently. Of course, we could all do things different, right? So in my opinion, because I'm much older than him. I'm almost 40. Uh, Dating a bunch of ladies, I've been through all that. You know, I've had my fair share of time with women overseas. I've had my fair share of time with women in America. You know, what's important is you make sure you don't make someone else's culture look bad or make someone else's country look bad. He had that issue in Brazil, and I think that's where the whole dust up came with the death threats and all the viral moments he had being covered on Houston News or whatever, Fox 7, I don't know the name of it. But it kind of boosted his notoriety. And I think at that point, that was when he was anointed the leader of the passport. You know, the person with the loudest microphone gets all the attention, right? So there's other guys that are out here that do it, like Solo Traveler, ORD, Travel Versity, I think his name is, a fellow military guy such as myself, Beautiful Eyes, shouts out to the brother. Um, they have done exactly the same thing Austin's done, but the only thing different is they travel with one thing. Okay. I'm not telling him that he needs to do that because I think he might be what, 23, you know. Uh I'm definitely over a decade older than him. So I mean the guy just has to live his life. And I think there's a big conflict of interest with what he has to do. Okay. The biggest conflict of interest is perception, right? Perception is reality to all of us. It doesn't discriminate. However, when he tries to veer away from what people like to see, the dating, the going out, the talking to ladies and stuff like that, his audience wants to see that, right? So if he veers away from that, it'll reflect in his views. So he tries to stick to his bread and butter, right? Just like any other industry, Um, not to get into the RP talk type of talk, you see how the government kind of pedestalizes a certain group because that certain group, they do most of the spending in the United States, and the reason why they pedestalize that group is because they gain more profit doing so. That's the same thing that's going on with Austin, right? This type of videos that he's watching, I mean, the type of videos that he's giving out are the ones that make the money. So let me grab my brother up here real quick. I got him coming in. Hold on a second. Oh, there we go. Hey, what's happening, brother?
Hey, what's going on, Justin? I
Man,
appreciate
I
you
can't
inviting me
call it,
on.
man. Just over here waiting on you to show up. You know what I'm saying? So
Man,
what's
great
good with you?
man, great topic tonight. We kind of talked about it earlier. I don't have anything against Austin Holleman. I think he's young. He's 23 years old. He's gonna make mistakes. I think my only criticism of him is that he does need to listen to some of the OGs, some of the older men travelers, because I can only imagine what it would be like if I had a little bit of money. I'm 23 years old. I'm traveling the world. You have access to women in different countries. So I would just tell him to just kind of listen to wisdom, listen to older
Hold on,
guys,
man. I'm gonna just
and
have to get a
move
little closer.
and move accordingly. I think when he was in Brazil, a lot of the OGs tried to, give him a little counsel, a little some warnings, and he might have listened to some of it. Others it might have went out his ear. But at the end of the day, now he's in on the African continent, and I think that my only criticism is that you know be careful the content that you put out there. I know he wants to get followers and likes and subscribers, but be careful how you represent men and women when you're you're a visitor in their country. And so when you look at Traveler ORD, you look at Ace Live, you look at Checks in Effect, all of them are very careful how they move. If you look at their content, they're always uber respectful to people. They're talking about the culture. They may feature women in their content, but it's not with an arrogance. It's almost like, hey, this person is here. I'm interviewing them. They're helping me get a better appreciation for their culture. It's not with a sense of arrogance or like I'm just kind of running through women. And that's not to say now they're not out there dating different women, but they don't come off that way. So I think my advice, like I said, I'm 45. I'm a traveler. I've been traveling for 18 years. Is to be careful. Don't be in such a rush to get to that 100,000 subscribers, but make sure that you're bringing good content that you would share with your mom, with your grandmother, with your family. Not content that's going to bring an embarrassment, not only to black men or black American men, but content that's going to be, put you in trouble with that country. And so, like I said, he almost got in some trouble in Brazil. He can learn from that, but like I said, he's kind of moving kind of carelessly in Africa. I'm a little worried for him because I'm like that age of being like his father. But I think if he listens, he can turn this around and he can put positive content out there.
Yeah. So I think if I'm studying his behavior correctly, I think his heart is in Kenya. You know, I think it's more or less how is he going to tailor his content to where it's actually entertaining to the audience? Because at the end of the day, that's currently his livelihood. You know, so it's kind of hard to cater to an American audience, knowing what type of content American audiences expect. You know, even some of the most conservative brothers, when it comes to what they see on TV, it's not like conservative. It's not their reality outside of their household. They want their household to be conservative, but they want to see a life that they might desire to live. And I think that's the one thing that he has to wrestle with. You know, how is he going to create that great content and not look like he's what's the word I'm looking for? He is basically monetizing the women, you know what I'm saying? He's profiting off of showing pretty faces, going on dates and things like that. Do you see a type of strategy that he could take? Because I mean, I've seen a couple, but what do you think?
I mean, it's like I was talking to someone earlier. I mean, he doesn't necessarily have to be conservative. He just have to be real and honest, but also respectful. Um, he's young. People expect him to act his age, but at the end of the day, YouTube is international. So his audience isn't just America, it's worldwide. So people in Africa are going to be following his content. When he was in Brazil, people in Latin America following his content. And so I just think he just have to be respectful. Like when I look back at reviewing his content, what got him caught up in Brazil, it wasn't that he was saying anything untrue. I have a friend that lives in, and he's in the military in Brazil. He says he's heard Brazilian men say worse things about Brazilian women, but the fact that he was a visitor there, and he's kind of airing out that country's dirty laundry, or he's coming across as saying, "Hey, get your passport. Women are easy here."
Hey,
You that can be insensitive, and that can kind of make the woman kind of come off as whorish, and that's very disrespectful. So the feminists jumped all over that. So if he had reworded it, then maybe he might not have gotten so many people, interested in the video. But if he reworded it, it probably wouldn't have been so bad. So all
yeah,
I'm saying,
like they say, all publicity is good publicity, you know. And like for the men, they basically knew what he meant. Well, I would hope so. You know that they're easy to talk to. You know, not that they're easy in the sense of getting laid or anything like that. But it was a rookie mistake. You know, and he apologized for it. But you know how, like, if the one I want to say she was Brazilian that was really going hard on him, like she was a starch feminist. You know, and then when America media got a hold of it, it was just a whole firestorm. So that kind of said, I don't know if it really set him back. I think it more or less catapulted him, but it definitely got people talking, and that's when he took off. So um, he kind of turned lemon into lemonade, in my opinion. But when I was thinking about an approach of what he could do is there's this guy on YouTube, and he's down there in Brazil, I think. His name is um one master teacher, right? So this guy, he kind of like does photography with the ladies. He'll have a sit down with them. And there's another guy, I can't remember his name, but he's down there as well. And like I think it would serve him well if he was with a group of women instead of just dealing with just one, even if he was taking them all out to eat or something, now that can get, well, I don't even think it'd get costly in Africa, because it's like when I was in Kenya, like big meals was costing like $20. So, and we went to like a 4-star restaurant. And I think it was like, I might have paid $90. That was the most, but we had squid, um, we had crab and lobster. So that's like you talking about in America, man. You talking about a $200 meal, So, but like it's all about the strategy. You can't just be a one trick pony. You got to figure out what's going to move the masses, what's going to spark the attention. Because hey, let's just be real, a lot of people can't travel. Like the people that do travel, they're not the dusties, but I think the bulk of the audience is the people that financially can't do what he does. That's why they live vicariously through him. So it's
Yeah,
more
yeah,
or less,
yeah,
hmm?
yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I can't find anything negative about what you said. I think that the way um, people in America has painted that, and I loosely say people because it's both men and women. They painted it as these passport bros or these men traveling are are dusties and broke. And you know it, you said it yourself. You can't be dope, broke, and dusty and traveling around the world. Is that just doesn't make any sense. And so I follow a lot of content creators. One of my popular ones that I follow is Rob with a Passport Bro podcast. I also follow Black Man Travel with Kanal.
That's
Um,
one of the OGs.
yeah, so those are some of the guys that I kind of chop it up with. And so when it comes to Master One Teacher, I've been following him, for a little while. I'm very critical of content. I may not publicly say anything about it, but a lot of the content creators, I can't say for Austin, go a particular way. I just say be truthful and honest, and then give content that kind of educated. So for me, Brazil 4 times. I've been to Colombia probably 20 times. So at the end of the day, I speak some Portuguese and some Spanish. Am I fluent? No, but I know how to get around. And so
Mm,
I noticed that some of them guys, when they go to one city, whether Salvador Bahia or whether it's Rio de Janeiro, they don't produce content that really interests me. They produce content for a rookie, for somebody who never been there. You know what I'm
got it.
saying? Because they're not educating me on the culture or on the language or teaching me something about places to go. For example, just for Rio, do they go to Madeira? Do they go to the black neighborhoods in Rio? Do they go to Rosina Favela? Have they been to Vigidal? They haven't been to those places. Are they creating content, going out to other cities like Sao Gonzalo or Dos Bozos? And so they're not giving content that or Cabo Frio. I was just there this summer in Rio not Rio. I was in Brazil for 10 days. I was for like 2 or 3 days in Santa Teresa, and I spent like I think 6 days in a couple of other cities. Last year I was there for a whole month in there, and I went to 3 cities. I went to São João in San Luis Maranhão. Then I flew to Salvador Bahia, then to Rio de Janeiro. And so, like I said, these content creators, it takes a lot to impress me, but I support a lot of those brothers because I feel like, they're just kind of, getting their stuff out there, and I like to see more brothers creating content. But yeah, like I said, they don't really necessarily create content for me. They're creating for them guys that never got their passport, haven't been to Brazil, because a lot of the stuff I do call a lot of BS to some of the stuff that I see, but it is what it is.
Okay. Yeah, so it's like for me, I kind of did it backwards. Like my first major trip, I mean, the first time I wanted to take a trip abroad, I wanted to go somewhere where they spoke English, right? So my first trip was London. And I was all up and down by Buckingham Palace, the freaking go the London Bridge, Piccadilly Circuit, and but I was comfortable in that environment. Now the other trip I took, which was actually closer to the United States, man, I ain't even gonna lie to you. Both times I went, I did not leave the resort, and so and when I was in Kuwait, I'm in the military, so it was kind of like a travel deal. And the same thing when I went to the Horn of Africa in Djibouti, it was like it was real isolated, and a lot of them spoke English. But my first trip to Africa was different. Although they speak English there, their first language is Swahili, and it's different when like you can be walking around and hearing people speak a language that you don't understand. So with that being said, I did a ton of preparation to make sure I'm ready for what to do when I get down there. And I think that some of these content creators, they should operate in like a cycle, because a lot of people are not going to go back and look at your old content. So the what you need to do when you get on ground, the currency exchange, how to get onto the cell phone, how to get onto the internet network and stuff like that, places to go, things to see, places to lodge, the vehicles and how things work, because a lot of people have never traveled before. And even those that are really interested in travel and having the means to travel, they can get wrapped up in seeing the horseback rides on the beach, or going zip lining, or going to like some of these other places like in Abu Dhabi or Qatar, and they're on camels. Like, how do you get there? It seems like for a lot of people it's a bridge too far, even if they don't have the finance. I mean, even if they do have the finances to make it happen. So what do you say about the approach to how they should get the ball rolling? What do you recommend?
I mean, like you, I mean, a lot of people are going to travel different ways. I mean, some people travel through the military, some people travel through family experience, other people travel solo or with a partner. I think you should travel however you feel comfortable. For me, I started traveling back in 2006 with my ex. I was married for several years, so we would travel to DR and to Hawaii and different places. We would go on several cruises. And then I think we traveled to a few other places. And I remember back in 2015, we went to a tour around Europe. We flew into um, to uh, to the Netherlands, to Amsterdam, took a train down to Belgium. We were in Brussels for a couple of days, then took a train down to Paris, France. We were there for like 3 or 4 days. Then we went down to Madrid for a few days, for about 3 or 4 days. We were going to go from Madrid to Barcelona. We were invited, some friends we met there, but we didn't. We went into Munich, Germany, and then we spent a whole week. I remember we rented like a a condo there for a week, and then we rented a car, and so we drove from Munich to Missing Wilhelm and Kempten and some small um, places in or cities in southern Germany. We were also on the Austrian border. Then we took a train. When we finished that trip, we took a train back to Amsterdam, and we completed our trip out in Amsterdam. We flew. We had a layover for 24 hours in Dublin, Ireland, and we came back to the States. And so, like I said, I've gotten my feet wet, when I was married, but then even since I've been divorced 5 years, I've been solo traveling. Brazil, Colombia, um, Iceland. I'm going to Croatia in November. I just got back last weekend from Cartagena, and
Mm.
so like I said, it is what it is, bro. I feel like you travel however you feel comfortable, but I encourage people of color, black people, black men and women to travel. You know what I'm saying? Like I have an 18-year-old daughter. She wants to go to Japan. And I'm gonna take her to Japan soon. She used to have a passport and she used to go with us, but hers expired, so I had to renew hers. But I think I'm an educator, so and her mom's an educator, so I think that however you can afford to travel, even if it's like going to Puerto Rico or the U.S. Virgin Islands or Bahamas or Jamaica, I encourage Black people to travel to expand their worldview. And so and then traveling solo is not for everybody. So if especially for maybe a woman who don't feel comfortable doing that, I always tell them research your country ahead of time, plan accordingly. If you can travel with a partner or a friend, great. But if not, you want to go solo, just make sure it's a safe country. Make sure you know the laws of that land. Um, and just be careful and move a certain way. It's almost like I would give private consultation to a guy if he's going to certain countries on how to move healthy and how to move safely, because you start going down to some of the South American continent, guys get drugged, they get robbed,
Oh
if they
yeah.
move a certain way. So I just say, man, travel however you feel comfortable, just be safe and do your research.
So I seen a video on Instagram. There was this guy, and he was walking through the streets, and they said it was Medellin, right? And there was he was being videotaped, and all these ladies was catcalling him and all this other stuff, and it's very controversial Instagram influencer. Not him, but the where I seen the video on. So I clicked onto the comments, and there's just so much hate, 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 and like it was tagged in the video something passport bros, but and like the women are saying those are prostitutes. They're just trying to do their job, and they were saying it's pitiful that you got to go all the way to blah blah to get some ass and stuff like that. Why is there so much hate for brothers leaving the United States? It's like, and this wasn't even a black guy. This guy probably looked like he was like of Hispanic or Latin descent. I just don't understand. Like, is it jealousy? Is it hate? Are they mad because they're not the ones getting chose? Because this wasn't some heavy set guy. You know what I'm saying? This was a guy that looked fit, looked tall. He dressed nice, and they was catcalling. But they, for the love of these Americans, it's not because the guy looked good. That's why they was catcalling them. It was because, oh, they're prostitutes or they just want your money. And another thing is, you're saying that's all they want is his money. But at the same time, you see countless videos after videos after videos of women saying they want a man that makes six figures. They want a man that makes 400,000. And they don't even know the percentage of men that make that kind of money, but they say, that's what I want. Now I understand that that's not a lot of people's reality, but how are they not the same? One is working for her money, and the other one just wants you to give them money. What's your take on the hate on the passport bros?
I mean, like I mentioned before, I don't identify as a passport bro because I've been, traveling for almost years, but even before that was even a thing. But I have friends and I have colleagues and associates that I deal with that are passport bros. I don't see nothing wrong with what they're doing. I feel like at the end of the day, long as you're not in a country breaking laws, like how can I criticize another man for finding his peace, whether it's through travel, through culture, through dating women or whatever in foreign lands. You know what I'm saying? Now, I know you can get a lot of criticism by the activity. I feel like it's levels to it. You know what I'm saying? You know, there may be some passport bro that go to DR and he may be broke and dusty and barely have enough money to get back. Then again, there might be a guy who claims he's a passport bro, but he's married to his Latina. He has a business and a property he owns in Medellin. Is that the same level as the broken dusty? So I feel like everybody that claim to be passport bros aren't passport bros. And to me, it's like I feel like that name is an umbrella term. I feel like it was taken over by some people who kind of spilled in it from the red pill community. In
Mm,
fact, I don't even think that, you know, and there's no shade at Auston. I don't even think he a real passport bro. I felt like he got hyped up off the fame associated with that name. But if you can remember when he first started claiming passport bros, he only had been to one country. He had been to Brazil once. Then he came back to the States, got his money back, and then moved back to Brazil. I think he went to Colombia, then he went to Brazil. So technically, a passport bro supposed to be a person who travels around, right? So
so hold on,
I
let me stop you right there. So by definition, now it's kind of working like it's kind of like a working document. You know, they're adding on to it, but initially, a passport, bro, and you can look in it. I'm not saying that the Urban Dictionary is the Holy Bible, but when
definitely
you
not.
look up the term passport, bro, um, it's specifically a man that travels abroad looking for a foreign wife or long-term relationship due to the frustrations of dealing with Western modern women in America. That was it. Now, you got guys like Theo Waff that is like a high six-figure earner, and other gentlemen that like have businesses like Beautiful Lives. I think he said he has a business in Cartagena or in Brazil somewhere. Um, he has a property there. So yeah, like you said, there's levels to it, but the bare bones foundation of Passport Bros is an American man leaving the United States abroad looking for a foreign wife that is traditional, that is conservative, because they are dealing with the frustrations of dealing with Western American women. And
Right.
even if you look at Al Grease's documentary, the first one, and I think what the first one came out in like 2001, the
Mm-hmm.
title of it is Frustrated. And it was about men leaving to go to Brazil to get a better quality of life. And part of the life is relationships, you know? So the foundation of Passport Bros is simply guys that are leaving America for long-term relationships with a more traditional conservative woman.
Right, right. And if we take that definition, like you said, it's a rolling document. So depending on the day, who you ask, they're going to give you a different definition of that, right? So, and then even with the Urban Dictionary, I'm pretty sure a passport bro did not define that, right? So probably somebody that is critiquing it. But at the end of the day, if we take that definition from the Urban Dictionary, even with that, that's why I was telling you before, I don't really identify with being a passport bro because I never, for me, travel was always a way of relaxation, of culture, of exploring my options.
Mhm.
I never was frustrated with black women, or I never was frustrated with American women. Now I do understand what a lot of men are frustrated with here in the Western cultures when it comes to dating. You know what I'm saying? But that never was my issue. You know, I never had a problem dating women here. You know, for me, I always say be a man of value and explore your options. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, where all the hate comes from, I think it's a combination of things. I think you hit it on the head when you said that it could be some jealousies, it could be some frustration with women not being able to find eligible men. Because if you keep this in mind, they're left with all the Pookies and Ray Rays, all
You
the
damn right.
guys that are nerds and geeks and that are making I'm gonna say as low as 50,000, but make anywhere up to 100,000, or make six figures. Those are the guys that are catching flights. You know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
so if those are the guys that are lames that you don't want anyway, why are you complaining about it? Just like I tell men, I say, stop talking about women, stop talking about American women. If you don't like them and you're gonna explore your options, give the American women, the women in these cultures, a break. Stop talking trash about them and focus on living your best life and having positive experiences. So I don't go, even with me, creating content, or you creating content, I don't support content that just bash, what I'm saying, American women. If you don't like American women, stop talking about them, man. Talk about what you do like. And so I think that when people create content that just go back and forth, I feel like that kind of feeds more into the gender wars, right? We all look for ammunition to kind of one up each other. And so I just think that it's a combination of xenophobia. I think it's a combination of jealousy. And I feel like some of the women are frustrated because some of the good and the better men in society are exploring their options. They're getting their wives from Asia, from Africa, from Latin America, from European nations. They're from the islands. They're exploring their options. How can you hate on that? So I don't know.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I have now it all depends on what you label as frustration, right? I have had my frustration with American women, not just black women, but American women. And simply put, is because they're the ones that I've dated, and I've dated a few, quite a few. It's the I'm a old school traditional type of guy, and the concept that a lot of them have, like I'm in the DMV area, they want to be boss chicks, and they want to be 50-50 until it's time to pay the bills. They want to be equal until it's time to go on a trip. I've dated women that made more money than me, and they still expected me to foot the bill, you know, and that's where my frustration comes in. And my frustration comes in at when I try to communicate with you, but it's not being received. Or it's like, do you not think that you should put in just as much as I put in as terms of effort? Or trying to explain to a woman that I compete in society to get the best mate that I can get. You should compete to get the best mate you should get. I feel like I don't have to compete. And then explaining to them, when you're competing, it's not like you're trying to beat the next person out. You're just trying to be the best version of yourself, mind, body, and soul. So it's like it's gotten to the point where the juice isn't worth the squeeze. And I mean, that's where my frustration comes in at. It's like they're coming to you, and here's the deal. I don't even have an issue with a woman that has children, or children, as long as the father is doing what he's supposed to do. Because I have children, and I do what I'm supposed to do as a father for my children. But a lot of these women, they don't. The ones that I've dated, just about all of them, baby daddy don't do for their kids, don't pay child support, and then they expect for me to fall in and be the stepdad. And I tell them I'm not a stepdad. You know what I'm saying? I'm here for you. He is a part of you. So yeah, I'll deal with that. But as far as him calling me dad, I'm not cool with that, because he has a dad. You hold him accountable for the choice you two made about 16 years ago. So that's where my frustration comes in. And it's like this right here. My frustration isn't sexual access. Now, and a lot of guys would be like, well, if you having sex with him, what's the problem? It's kind of like game, like a lot of times game teaches guys how to get the girl, but it doesn't teach you how to maintain the relationship and go further and potentially have a family, get married. Get married, have a family, and see that family grow up in that nuclear home. They don't teach you that. So it's like, I'm past just having sex. You know what I'm saying? I want somebody that's going to share the same values as me and is going to want me to lead the relationship in the way I see fit, so I can hold all the accountability for everything that goes wrong. and the stuff that goes right as well. But it's 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 the culmination of all that. That's where my frustration comes in. Not the sexual access, but wanting to go past sex. Didn't mean to be long winded.
No, no, that's pretty good. And like I said, I agree with you, bro. It's for me the way I see it, and this is why I don't really support negativity toward the passport bros, because if you look at the passport bros, I'm not talking about like the 20-year-olds frustrated from dating here in America. I'm talking about like the guys in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. These are guys who've been in relationships with women here. They've been divorced, married and divorced. What it happens is it's just like a business concept. And I'm going to tell you, like where you've been at with dating women in the DMV, I've been the same way with dating women here in the Southeast, in Florida, having access to beautiful women, women who make six figure or more, and they still want you to go 50-50, or they want you to pay all the main bills, but they save their money. So they're not really sharing. So my thing is find a better deal from a business concept. Find a better deal, just like back in the early 1900s when our great grandparents were taking care of each other, and our great grandmothers were staying home, and our grandfathers were the only ones working. That was the how the tradition was. It was a traditional mindset. And so now we live in an age of modernism where women make just as the same amount of money as we do, if not more, but they still have a traditional mindset. They're only traditional part of the time, and then the other time they want to be modernistic.
Yeah,
And so,
they're traditional when it comes to us. We
right,
have
and
to
so,
fulfill our traditional role, and that's where a lot of the frustration comes in
and
for a
and
lot of
that's
people.
where and that's where the passport bros, or I'm just gonna say men traveling, exploring their
There
options,
you go.
that's the cheat code, and that's the thing that women don't like. They don't like that men are waking up and saying, hey, I can find a better option somewhere else. And so because men are going for women of cultures that are more traditional, women that believe in roles, a lot of women in the West don't like that. So I get it. I understand why they don't like it. And so if a man goes to Latin America, or he goes to Africa, or he goes to Southeast Asia, he finds a woman that's traditional, how can you be mad at that? And I think a lot of time the women in the West don't understand is not because he can't date women in the West, in America or in Europe. The only thing is he probably checked out. He probably said, you know what, I'm tired. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to explore my options. And just like women explore their options, men have a right to explore their options. So,
Absolutely. And I think the biggest um the biggest gripe that the women have that they don't say is that they're not getting the right to first refusal. They're not getting to turn the guy down. And it's like what you said earlier. You complain about the guys that you don't want. So are you projecting? Do you really want those guys? Because obviously you can't call them broke. I remember when the passport bro movement just kicked off, they were saying things like, well, you can't get a passport because you behind on child support. Those guys that are leaving the country, those aren't those guys. So I just don't understand the angst. However, like when you was talking about the bash and black women and stuff like this. Like there's one guy that I listen to, Obsidian Media Network, shout out to him. He calls it black female fuckery, and he just points out the hypocrisy and the fuckery that they do. It's more or less a awareness siren for the men that are not in the know. Like this type of activity is what goes on. Now, as far as guys just getting on, like I don't personally listen to dudes that say bitches ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? It's like guys will put that disclaimer out there, not all, because of course we know nothing's absolute in this world other than you're gonna pay taxes and you're gonna die, right? But I think those spaces are needed, just like those spaces are needed for the women to voice their grievances about the black men or the men that they deal with. But us men us successful, productive men, we know what type of guys he's talking about. We know because those are the select fuck boys. You know, those and it's like on our side, we relatively don't talk bad about we don't talk bad about good women. You know, we praise those good women, but it's so unfortunate that in today's day and age, it's kind of hard to differentiate the good girl from the bad girl. Now, when it comes to the fellas, you know who the good guy is and who the bad guy is. But the difference is a lot of women don't want that good guy. They're gonna call him corny. They're gonna call him lame. They're gonna call him a square, like the way they do Michael B. Jordan and the way they do. And I give him his shots out. His Russell Wilson, right? They're doing what they're supposed to do, you know. But when those guys are not making that money, you take their money away from them. Those guys are no longer attracted to them. So, I mean, I say all that to say that when it comes to dealing with these women in America, like I know they're never going to. A lot of them will not take accountability for their actions, but it'll be nice for them to like actually do that, and then
And
we'll
when
understand why brothers are checking out.
Well, the thing is, why would they change? I mean, you look at it. Look at the culture here in the United States, in Europe, in Canada, in Australia. It's a
Mhm.
lot of simps, and I use that very lightly, but it's a lot of simps here in America that are sex deprived. They're willing to pay it any kind of way. Like you criticize, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. You criticize men for going to other countries paying for sex when men do it here, they just pay a higher cost.
There
They
you go.
just pay it. So my thing is like I don't judge where men put their penis. I don't judge if men pay for or not because even though I may not do that, but my thing is even if you go out on dates with women and you happen to sleep with them, you're just paying on a higher cost. So
Mhm.
either way, men gonna have to pay. If you think that you're not gonna pay in society, you're gonna have to pay. So I just look at it just like I said, I, I don't see it changing because women are not held accountable in the society. There are a lot of feminists, and there's a lot of male feminists here in the West. And so, and then you compile that with simps that's willing to do anything to get the attention of women. Just look at like Sexy Red. To me, her music is trash, but
Absolutely.
why is she so popular? She's not beautiful. She don't have talent. She's trashy. She's teaching our daughters and women that it's okay to be,
Three
promiscuous
or four.
and 304s. And so my thing is that why are we supporting that in America? Well, it's a lot of women supporting that. It's a lot of men probably buy, that that music. And so
Oh yeah.
for me, I maybe it's because I'm a Gen X, maybe I'm a little older. I just don't support that kind of music, and I don't see women being held accountable because the culture here in America doesn't promote it. Like if she would have produced that stuff in those countries in Africa, people would be looking at her like she crazy. But here in America, we celebrate that, so
Yeah.
I don't see the changing.
It's like that old song, man. Girls just want to have fun, you know, and that's what it all boils down to. Like being sexually promiscuous, going out there talking, singing, rapping about Henny and a Plan B, you know. So that means that you could be sexually free with your body and you can go screw every Tom, Dick, and Harry. That's fun to them, you know. The ages of having a family and like building together, that's lame, you know. So it's like we glorify uh degeneracy. We glorify degeneracy in the United States. We glorify arrested development, like um Kanye West said. I think he said shop at Forever 21, but just turned 30. It's like these women, they have arrested development. And a lot of the guys do too, Like it's funny you say that you're a Gen Xer, I'm an older millennial. And the boomer class, their biggest gripe about our generation, yours and mine, because you're closer leaning to a millennial, and I'm closer leaning to a boomer. I mean, a Xer. So we're kind of close together in age. They're saying just you're being lazy, just work hard. Um, the reason why they say that type of stuff is because they come from a generation where they made nothing, something out of nothing. And we're in a time now where we have nothing. So we got to make something, and that's the reason why they say that we're lazy. You know, so it's like times were different back then. People are more serious now, and it's like in this era right here, people just aren't serious. It's like um, that's the reason why that debauchery is celebrated. Everybody want to be young, everybody want to play around, nobody wants to get serious about life.
Yeah, I think it goes back to like values and accountability. And so, and I think when you look at the moral breakdown of the family, coming out of the 60s and in the early 70s when we had the civil rights movement, especially the late 50s with Brown versus Brown, you know, the
Board
Board
of
of Education. And now you look at it, our grandparents fought to give us liberation and freedoms and equal rights. And what do we do with it? You know, we produce trash music. We support degradation of women and women being loose. We feminize our boys, and we celebrate drug use. We don't celebrate that little boy going to school and becoming a doctor or lawyer. We celebrate him becoming an athlete and having like Zion Williams, like having
right.
sleeping with porn stars. Like we celebrate that behavior, and I feel like our morals and values as a nation are going down, and I don't know if it's because, I'm not trying to make this political, but I don't know if it's because they've taken church out the school. Like I said, I'm an educator. I don't think it should have been there to begin with, but at the end of the day, we've gotten over the last 20, 30 years, we've gotten so far away from our parents, and I've seen it. I've been in education for the last 10 years, and I've seen the changes, and I'm like, man, I can't imagine in the next 10 to 15 years what it's going to be like. Um, and I don't know, Justin, like I think that, you know, like I said, I think black men have to explore their options and find women that have that same agenda, have the same morals and standards, and build your families there. Because if you build it with a woman that's, she has a mindset set of me first, only me, how can you build with that? How can you raise a family with that? So,
Absolutely, man. So it's like that's part of the reason that was my biggest selling point, right? For becoming a passport bro was partly because of legislation, right? I've been divorced for 11 years. When I got divorced, I lost everything, right? And I just can't let that happen again, right? So I have to go somewhere where the laws are more equal, So um as far as like the education and what's going on, and that's a part of the process. I don't know if it was done in ill intent, but at the same time, it's like you were seeing it bear out, taking the religion out of school and the stuff that they're pushing on the children now. I'm not going to speak on it, but it's like it's going, it's taking this country into a downward spiral, and if without intact families, like this place is going to look terrible. And it's funny, right? When you talk about the type of women and they're talking about me, it's like they're also incentivized by the state. So if I do divorce this guy and I have a child with him, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to get the baby unless he fights for it. 9 times out of 10, if I've been with him longer than 10 years, I'm going to get some type of alimony. A lot of situations, prenuptial agreements are just toilet paper, because it's like what I've learned about prenups is like you got to give her something. There's no ironclad prenuptial agreement that says that she gets nothing. That makes it null and void. So it's like everything is stacked up against the man with the 50% divorce rate, like all these things is like you would be a fool to like if you're aware of this situation to even risk marriage again, because like I didn't know anything about the divorce statistics when I got married in 2006, and it's been like that for a pretty long time, and I didn't have a father in my life, so it's like a lot of the game, a lot of the knowledge that I could have been given to make me self-aware could have saved me thousands of dollars. I mean, thousands of dollars. But, thank God we got platforms like these, in the manosphere space, to where guys can get hip on game.
Well, it's like you were saying. I think that women they learn from their mothers and from their maybe from their grandmothers, but I think it's more so coming out of the '80s. I think when law started to change into the favor of women, women started to use that as a cheat code, right? They can have kids from X amount of dudes. They can get child support. They get married, get divorced. They can get alimony. They can get child support. They can get a number of things that supports their lifestyle while the man struggles to rebuild his life. And like you, I've been through the same thing. I had to go through a divorce. Me and my ex, now we're pretty good friends now. We talk, but she asked me the other day, she was like, why don't you take me to Cambodia or the Asian? I'm like, no, that's not gonna happen. Like, we cool, but we gonna be good co-parents. But going back into that, I'm not marrying another woman in the United States. And when I date women in like Brazil and Colombia and foreign countries, I let them know up front, you're not going to get no K-1 visa from me. You're not coming here for me to marry you here. I'll marry you in your country. I'm not against commitment. I'm not against marriage. It's just that it's not the laws are not in our favor or in men's favor in the United States. And so I would rather be in a relationship with you in your country. And if it doesn't work out, we get divorced in your country. At least I don't lose my whole livelihood. But if we get married in my country, I could lose everything. And so like you said, I think that's one thing about the passport bros is they develop their own cheat code, and I think that's an awful lot of women because they're like, okay, these guys are smart. They're taking their money, they're taking their resources, they're developing it in other countries. They still may have their own houses and their jobs here in the United States, but they're creating their relationships in a different environment that's more conducive for them. And so that's why I said that I'm not against passport bros. It's actually pretty smart. And for me personally, I don't know if I would get married here in the United States. I don't think I would. It would have to be a foreign country because we lose too much. Um, and it's like I was talking to a friend of mine. I told him, I said, man, if you go out on a date with a woman and say you do have sex and you get her pregnant, it's like, dude, like I don't see how people don't use protection or condoms here because, you can just, matter of fact, there's cases where, and I think we were in a chat where a man dated a woman with kids and maybe for a year and then they broke up and she put him on child support for kids that are not even his. So, it may not happen all the time, but there are cases like that. And I think you just got to be careful.
Yeah, I've seen a case where a teacher had sex with one of her students, got pregnant, found out about it. I mean, got found out, got fired, all that other stuff. And when that kid turned 18, she put him on child support and the state allowed it. So that's like ridiculous. Um, yes, it's man, yeah, it just blows my mind how unfair the state is, man. It blows my mind. But hey, we're gonna have to bring this topic up. And you brought it up. We're gonna have to have another video about this. And the topic is gonna be about the process of like if you are gonna get married as a passport bro, like what steps you're gonna take. Cause I like we said in the chat, we know what my approach is. I want to save it for the next episode. You know what I'm saying? So if you're available, and I might fire it up tomorrow. I don't know. I'd love to have you back up here to get your perspective.
Yeah, bro. I appreciate it, man. And like I said, I should be available. It depends. I'm at work now. That's why I don't have my cam on.
Oh, you good, bro?
But yeah, it's definitely like to engage in that discussion and try to bring more guys in too as well, get their perspective. Me personally, I just feel like it's better to get married abroad than in the United States because I feel like you have more of a risk getting married here. And that's because I've been married and divorced before here. So I know other guys may feel differently, but maybe we can get some other perspectives on that. But yeah,
Bet.
man, I'd love to join.
Yeah, bet, because I know, and I'm gonna try to find the stats. I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna try to. I'm still learning this YouTube thing, and I would love to put the stats up there because I've heard guys say that when men marry women abroad, and even when they do bring them to the United States, like the divorce rate is like 17%. So like, I mean, that is a risk worth taking if guys still want to do that. So I don't want to deter them because, like you said, everybody has their own path, you know. So I want to just thank you for being on the show, man. And hey, man, I'll be getting back with you later.
All right, I appreciate it, Justin.
All right,
Have a
brother.
good
Have
one,
a
bro.
good one, man.
You too.
All right, guys, that concludes the show. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for tuning in. Hey, we're gonna try to do this as often as we can. I know I've been away from the game for a while, but I'm back. I've been wrapping up schoolwork, and I'm gonna try to get in here and do at least one video a week. I'm gonna try to owe that to you guys. I got some interesting topics that I want to bounce off y'all just to get a feel. I'm still working this YouTube thing. I'm still trying to figure it out. But love, peace, and blessings, man. Y'all have a good night. Peace.